Now, 10 people are being deported from the U.S. after they pleaded guilty to failing to register as foreign agents. It comes as a part of a swap deal between Moscow and Washington involving Russian and Western spies. Natalia Novikova is following the story.
A lot about the upcoming swap of spies is being kept a secret. There's a lot of speculations about it. However, according to some, the swap is going to take place in Vienna, where those 10 people who admitted their guilt will be delivered from the States and swapped for 4 individuals that have been doing terms in Russia for spying for foreign states. But what we do know for a fact is that at about midnight GMT or 3 a.m. Moscow time, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev wrote an amnesty to those people for the swap. And those people are Igor Sutyagin, a Russian scientist who was accused of supplying the United States with nuclear information about Russia, and he has been doing it 15-year long term here. Another person is Sergei Skripal, a former intelligence officer. He was supplying the UK with information about Russian agents. Alexander Zaporozhsky, who was arrested for treason back in 2003, and Gennady Vasilenko, who was a former KGB officer working in Washington. And after a short hearing, according to some speculations, again, because those 10 people were ordered to immediately leave the country after pleading guilty, they were put in a bus and delivered to the airport, from where supposedly they will be flying to Vienna for the swap. And the hearing of this case took place in the city of New York.
The only thing hotter than the New York weather was the story which has soared to the top of world headlines. The 10 people in the dock were hardly the spies who came in from the cold, not least due to the searing summer heat, but more that they seemed to do little, if any, spying. At a 3-hour court hearing in New York, they all admitted to being unregistered Russian agents, telling the judge they knew it was illegal, in a plea bargain hammered out between Moscow and Washington.
She pled guilty, acknowledging that she committed a conspiracy to stay in the United States, to communicate at the direction or request of the Russian Federation without registering.
The group lived anonymous lives in America before gaining unintended fame after their arrest in an FBI swoop. U.S. agents claimed they'd been on the tail of a Russian spy ring for almost a decade. Whatever the FBI were following, a rather harmless operation it appears to have been. There were no charges of espionage made against any of the accused, just allegations of being unregistered agents. The more serious rap of money laundering faced by most of the accused was dropped as part of the plea bargain deal. Only 3, however, lived in America under their real names. One of them is Anna Chapman, the redhead femme fatale who became the face of the story.
Nothing inspires me more than the amount and quality of people I met in New York. It's the strongest, largest, and the most solid community in the world. I'm trying to build up a project that will link Moscow and New York, the 2 most important cities for me, of course.
So where will the young, ambitious entrepreneur go from here? Huge press interest in her is unlikely to go away, but she's barred from making any money from it.
She specifically was required to sign an agreement that she would not profit from any publication of the story surrounding the circumstances of her arrest and surrounding the circumstances of her work as a foreign agent.
The court ordered that all 10 defendants be deported immediately from the U.S. They are never to be allowed back unless they get White House approval, something not too likely to happen.
Well, they had the option to go anywhere where they please once they get to Russia.
Except for the United States.
Right, they cannot come back here.
The plea bargain included the release of 4 people serving lengthy jail sentences in Russia for espionage offenses. They include former Russian intelligence officers and a nuclear scientist, all accused of passing secret information to the West. They're to be swapped for the 10 released in New York, the first such exchange between Moscow and Washington in almost quarter of a century. The FBI says it chased the defendants for over a decade, but as soon as 10 days after the arrest, the scandal, which exploded in world media headlines, wraps up, becoming the shortest special agent story to be devoured by the media in modern history. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.
Well, the assets and property of the arrested will go to the U.S. Treasury, as well as any profit made from attempting to make any details of this spy story public, in case any of the arrested decide to make a movie or write a book about it, for example. However, the outcome of this scandal is seen in a rather positive way here in Russia, as the statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry came that the fact that the scandal was resolved in such a short period of time is a clear sign of the warmed-up relations between Moscow and Washington.
The decision to swap Russian agents arrested in Washington for U.S. agents was agreed in line with the overall warming of Russian-American relations and top-level agreements between Moscow and Washington on their strategic partnership. Thus, we hope that this course of Russian-U.S. relations will be consistently implemented.
Another mystery that remains unresolved about this scandal is the 11th person who was arrested in Cyprus, released on bail, and who later ran off. But judging by how quickly the scandal around the other 10 people was resolved, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of problem with the remaining person either.
Natalia Novikova there following the case for us. And history could be about to repeat itself. In 1962, the U.S. and USSR agreed to a spy swap deal which saw American pilot Gary Powers exchanged for a Russian agent. Powers' son says that if a deal happens, those involved will see their lives change dramatically.
Well, if it's anything like my father went through, there will be a media frenzy. People will want to interview them and talk with them and get their side of the story. They will become a public figure. They will no longer have a private life per se. People will try to find out about them and what they did or didn't do. They will try to assimilate back into life. They will try to continue on with their careers and upbringing their families. The children of these folks will have to adjust to having a recognizable parent that is labeled as a spy.